Today I fucked up by making a guy relive the death of his son. Too long didn't read, at bottom. Obviously this was a long time ago. I think was 18. Still an ignorant kid, obviously. I was doing landscaping work at a school with some guys. Somehow the subject of children was brought up. One guy had mentioned he had several kids. Another said he had one. The last guy was pretty quiet during this conversation. I then said, "What about you? How many kids you got?" And he replied, "I don't have any." Given that he was in his 40s and had a wedding ring, I thought this was crazy. So I said, "What? How could you not have kids by now? You're married." And he said, "I just don't wanna have any." I, being the nosy kid I was, said, "Don't want any? Why not?" Then he says, "Well, I used to and my stupid brain didn't realize this was going in a bad direction." Meanwhile, the other guys who had been working with him for a few years knew how this was going to end. So I said, "Used to?" Laughed, "And how can you used to have kids?" To which he plainly replied, "Well, I had a son, but he died." He then just started staring at the ground quietly. And that's the story of how I learned to not ask too many questions when someone isn't being very forward about what you're talking about. He didn't seem angry at me or anything, but I could tell he kept thinking about it the rest of the day. Too long didn't read, pride for too much information from someone who didn't want to talk about it. Still stumped by the assumption that marriage has to mean kids. Like I said in the post, I was an ignorant kid. Just didn't think about it. I hope you made it right with him. As much as you could anyway. I apologized immediately, but all he said was, "Don't worry about it, you didn't know." But I still felt bad. Yeah. I've had shit like this happen, but usually I'm the other person. Hell, earlier this year I was at work and complaining of feeling tired and whatnot. I'd recently had an early miscarriage and was feeling sad about it along with the weird hormone fluctuations. The man I was talking to immediately goes, "Hey, you're not pregnant are you?" and starts laughing, and before I could stop myself I just say, "Sadly I was actually," and he looked absolutely horrified. Other than that, my little brother died when I was 18, and sometimes I'll casually talk about my childhood and him, and people who don't know will ask about him and what he's doing now. Always a very awkward conversation because as soon as people find out he died they almost always ask how, and that's just not a story I want to get into with strangers. Lesson learned for you. It sucks, but all you can do is try to be more cognizant in the future. That's exactly why if someone isn't offering more information, I'm too scared to ask more questions lol. It's better that way honestly. I think we all said some stupid shit by the time we were 18, definitely not the worst you could have said. Definitely could have been worse, and I'm glad it wasn't any worse than it already was. Today I fucked up by giving my husband his birthday gift with a full stomach. This actually happened just after midnight this morning. Every year my husband asks for a blowy for his birthday, which is totally fine and fun. His birthday was on the 30th, but we have 4 kids including a 3-month-old, so sexy time just happens wherever we can fit it in. Smile. Last night we ate way too much food and watched movies until all the kids were sleeping and they decided to head to bed ourselves. I popped a Tums because my stomach was unsettled. This is where I should have known I was making a bad choice tbh. Things start getting steamy and I decided to let my husband hold my hair for added sexiness. I don't normally let him hold my hair and control the pace because I have a horrendous gag reflex. So as we continue on he's super into it and I keep having to back off to avoid gagging. And then he grabbed my head and finished into my mouth. At the exact same moment he came, I threw up into my mouth. So in a panic with penis, semen and vomit in my mouth, I just swallowed it and practically flung myself off him coughing and gagging. When he asked if I was okay, I explained what happened and apparently he didn't notice. But I noticed, and still have a stomachache 10 hours later. Too long didn't read, tried to give my husband a sexy birthday surprise and instead of just swallowing what I was planning on I also swallowed vomit and gave myself a stomachache. Spit is for cowards. TBH, it would have been the smarter choice but I panicked and made a decision lol. There should be a pre-oral checklist that includes foods recently consumed. I was recently a victim to a hot Cheetos related incident. The pain was temporary but the memory is forever. Honestly, I've done the same thing, but with an empty stomach. I just puke really easily. Swallowed and he never found out. Not all heroes wear capes. Wow, you can say whatever the hell you want on Reddit. Isn't the internet an amazing place? Today I fucked up by accidentally waterproofing my floor and making it frictionless. Did actually occur today, so, a true today I fucked up. My girlfriend and I are pretty outdoorsy people, and being based in the UK, we are fairly lucky to have an abundance of forests and national parks to go hiking in around us. We are out most evening and weekends either walking or cycling and like to explore as much as we can. Our idea or a holiday is walking to exhaustion, getting a hot chocolate, and collapsing in a cozy eco Airbnb. One major issue we always have is that my GF is what I would consider somewhat of a hypochondriac. She always seems to have an issue. Most of the time it's her eyesight or an allergy, a back pain, shoulder pain, weird toenail, ingrown hairs, tooth issue. I sound very mean when I say it out loud, but there seriously has not been a single day in the last 4.5 years of our relationship where there hasn't been an ailment. I typically don't ever mention that I think she is oversensitive and instead try to massage or suggest treatments. But it may be a psychological issue. I try to tread carefully around it as I love her. Anyway, the recent ailment is overly sensitive heel. She cannot wear any shoes. They all rub her heel. And I mean all types of shoes from all shops in the last 3 months. We have tried insoles, padding, blister pads, plasters, socks, hiking blisters socks, but still all shoes rub. Until today, we finally found some nice shoes that worked. They are light colored walking boots that are a bit oversized but do the trick. Because of the light color though, they need a bit of protection for our rough hiking. So I went out and brought some protector and waterproofing spray. Clean the shoes up, set them down and apply the spray liberally as instructed. I pat down any drips with paper towel, and leave to dry. I repeat this process several times to ensure good coverage and good sealing. I want these good to last her ages! Exclamation mark. Finally, I finish them off and we do a quick water test. They seem great, so we go off for a hike to test. Worth mentioning here that I conducted all this in the hallway, on a tiled floor, in a guest house. Turns out, this spray's quite wide, and the tile picked up quite a lot. So on our return, we both slide down the hallways onto our asses. To my shock, I had somehow made the least grippy hallway in the UK, in a guest house. What's worse is that we both knew that the next guest was an old lady we both knew who had recently had a hip replacement and was currently on a walking frame, so this had to be sorted. I tried to clean off the tiles with water and a mop. But obviously this was high quality waterproof sealer, because this shit just beaded off. I couldn't wipe anything. I had made a boat a day I fucked up a nightmare for myself. I ended up spending all night with a wire brush ruining a tile hallway with micro scratches to ensure an old lady wouldn't die. Too long didn't read, sprayed shoe waterproofing spray all over a tile hallway in guest house, fell on ass, and ruined hallway while cleaning, to avoid killing old lady arriving who just had hip surgery. White spirit or acetone, you could try that. Sandpaper. If you ever do anything like that again, put something down to avoid messing up the floor. Ouch for your butts. If you ever do that again, try something called Spray 9 if you can find it in the UK. I suspect it would take care of it. Great story, thank you for sharing.